Like it or not, what draws a lot of people onto an NFL quarterback is how athletic they are. It's part of why guys like Dan Marino, Aaron Rodgers, Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, and Josh Allen have been so highly regarded. What about quarterbacks then that are good but aren't as highly looked upon because they play more ordinary? Welcome to this video's topic, the Matt Ryan Atlanta Falcons. Thanks for stopping by. Before we take a look at the Falcons with former NFL quarterback Matt Ryan, observe what led them here to begin with. The 2000s Falcons had modest success in the Michael Vick era, but after Vick retired following 2006 to spend more time with his family, the 07 Falcons were burning alive in quarterback hell. Matt Schaub, the guy they traded to Houston, would go on to be a multi-Pro Bowler. Can't say the same about the quarterback rotation of Joey Harrington, Chris Redman, and Byron Leftwich, but God bless all three for at least trying. And after 13-game Falcons head coach Bobby Petrino left Atlanta to also spend time with his family, that left the Falcons the task of finding a new quarterback-head coach duo. For coach, they hired Mike Smith. No, not the actor from Trailer Park Boys, but the Jaguars' defensive coordinator. Meanwhile, we head to Massachusetts to find the other half of this incomplete jigsaw puzzle. At the same time Tom Brady and the 2007 New England Patriots were tearing apart the NFL record books, in the ACC, Boston College's quarterback was piecing together one of the best seasons from any Eagle. Matt Ryan was regarded as the league's top quarterback prospect, though he wasn't seen as a generational one due to concerns about his arm strength. But deterred, he's not. He cites his older brother Michael as an inspiration after Michael's football career ended after shattering his elbow in an automobile accident the two were in while Matt was in high school. In the 2008 NFL Draft, with Ryan, the Falcons at pick number 3 get the quarterback reset they desperately need. The AI name-generated new quarterback-head coach duo of Matt Ryan and Mike Smith will be tasked with turning around the NFL equivalent of Hell's Kitchen the year prior. So as such, one Bleacher Report writer predicts a 2-14 record at best. Ryan's thrown right into those flames immediately as the starter for the season opener. Here's the first pass attempt of his NFL career. Surprise, it's a 62-yard touchdown pass to receiver Michael Jenkins, responsible for the famed Holy Buckeye play at Ohio State that helped the Buckeyes win the national championship in 2002. And now, Jenkins has a very long touchdown on the first pass attempt of a top 5 pick in the draft. But the bigger breakout comes from newly signed back Michael Turner, a backup to the legendary LaDainian Tomlinson in San Diego. Turner had the greatest rushing day by yardage by a Falcon in his first game with his new team, running for a still franchise record 220 yards on the ground, along with 2 touchdowns. The Falcons made history by becoming the first team to beat the then undefeated 2008 Detroit Lions, holding on to win 34-21 to start 1-0. An impressive 3-2 by the time Week 6 rolled around. They saw what quarterback they had just helped unlock in Week 6 against the Bears. Blowing a 19-10 lead late, the Falcons allowed Chicago to drive the length of the field in 2.5 minutes, capping it off with a game-winning touchdown with 11 seconds left to give the Falcons a heartbreaking loss. Right? Sorry about that, I spoke too soon. A squib kick lets the Falcons get the ball at their own 44 with 6 seconds left. That's 6 seconds too many for Ryan. Ryan's quick, deep sideline pass finds Michael Jenkins. Jenkins goes out of bounds with 1 second to spare at the Bears' 30. As time expires, kicker Jason Elam atones for a previous miss in the fourth with a successful 48-yarder to win the game. What a miracle comeback from Ryan. By this time, he's really earning his nickname, Matty Ice. He got that in high school for his cool, calm demeanor under pressure, as much as he tries to stay humble about it. The Falcons continue to soar by winning 7 of their last 10 games. Suddenly, a team predicted by most to finish last in the NFC South finishes second and snags a playoff spot at 11-5. Matt Ryan won Offensive Rookie of the Year for his efforts, while Michael Turner finished second in MVP voting by rushing just shy of 1,700 yards for a team record 17 touchdowns. One of the bright spots from that dark 2007 campaign was receiver Roddy White, forming an absurd connection with Ryan that saw the first of 4 straight Pro Bowl nods. Anchoring the defense with 16.5 sacks was All-Pro defensive end John Abraham, a criminally underrated player whose 133.5 career sacks rank inside the top 20 all-time unofficially and top 15 officially. The Falcons are bounced out of the playoffs by the eventual NFC champion Cardinals, but it's merely the end of an incredible first year no one could have expected. It earns Mike Smith Coach of the Year honors and saddles Atlanta with an unbelievable and exciting future moving forward. On their car ride to a Lombardi, the 2009 Falcons need to take a pit stop. Ryan had a bit of a sophomore slump statistically, affected by a turf toe injury, sidelining him for 2 Falcons losses. Not good when Michael Turner missed 5 games himself with an ankle injury. These aid in the Falcons regressing to 9-7, no playoffs. But check this out. The 9-7 record means that for the first time in the team's 44-season existence, they have constructed back-to-back winning seasons. Never mind that the Saints won the Super Bowl that year. They don't have Hall of Fame tight end Tony Gonzalez, acquired by Atlanta in the 2009 offseason. Considered by some the greatest tight end in NFL history, Gonzalez will be important in Matt Ryan's development and the success of the Falcons in the years to come. 2010 is the year of the 13-3 Falcons, their best record since 1998, their first time as the NFC top seed in 30 years. Overall, 9 Falcons achieved Pro Bowl honors, 5 of which made the All-Pro team. However, and sorry for the incoming oxymoron, the 2010 Falcons are probably one of the worst 13-win teams of all time. Drink out this golden chalice and we can taste poison and die. But don't worry, we are revived, and notice the offense and defense were both 5th in points scored and allowed, but just 16th in yards gained and allowed. Only 2 other 13-win teams since 2000 gained fewer yards per play. Defensively, they allowed the 12th most yards per play in the post-merger era. So how did they get 13 wins? Atlanta had 31 takeaways, 7th most. Additionally, just 17 turnovers, 3rd fewest. This was a terrific team in the clutch thanks to Matt Ryan's league-leading 5 fourth-quarter comebacks and 6 game-winning drives. It was a case study in a team being a bit luckier than they were good. In Week 3 at New Orleans, the Falcons got bailed in overtime on a shanked 29-yard game winner from the Saints. When Falcons kicker Matt Bryant saw his game-winning attempt blocked, it was only after the Saints tried to ice him with a timeout. Then, a delay of game on Atlanta pushes this kick from 41 to 46 yards, which Bryant makes anyway for the win. The next week, Matt Ryan threw a late fourth-quarter interception down 14-13. The very same play, Roddy White knocked the ball away from San Francisco's Nate Clements. Falcons recover and later kick the game-winning field goal. In Week 7, they blew a 24-3 halftime lead to the Bengals, trailing 25-24 entering the 4th. That doesn't matter because they outscored Cincy 15-7 in the 4th to nerf their comeback with another. Speaking of, Ryan's game-winning touchdown to Roddy White in Week 10 against the Ravens creates another comeback victory for the Dirty Birds. Their sweep of the rival Buccaneers was decided by a goal line stand in Week 9, followed by a Brent Grimes interception on their own 19 late in Week 13. So a handful of yards decided the NFC South and eliminated the 10-6 Bucs from playoff contention. A lot of luck involved, but sometimes the Super Bowl winning teams need that. Losing to the Packers in the divisional round will make the 2010 Falcons' goal of winning a title tougher. It was close enough near the end of the first half. Atlanta was driving and looking for at least 3. They found 6. Ryan's sideline pass was intercepted by Green Bay's Tramon Williams, his 2nd of the game. Williams' pick 6 sucked the gravity out of the Georgia Dome in a monumental point swing. The Packers scored 20 second-half points while the Falcons could only buy 7. And the Falcons, in 23 tries, had suffered their 3rd loss at home with Matt Ryan, none more catastrophic. Fun season notwithstanding, Ryan began to hear the usual complaints a star quarterback receives once the January wins don't come. His 6 turnovers in his first 2 playoff games aren't building bridges for favors to cross, and no one was more broken by the loss than Tony Gonzalez. 14 years into his Hall of Fame career, 14 years without a single playoff win. As one Atlanta Constitution writer summed it up, the Falcons are not as close to being a Super Bowl contender as we had thought. Why not change that? Trading up to the 6th overall pick in 2011, they nabbed the greatest receiver in franchise history and one of the best of the modern era, game-changing wideout Julio Jones. This meant the Falcons' offense had Matt Ryan, Tony Gonzalez, Roddy White, Michael Turner, and Julio Jones at the same time, stacked list of players. The 2011 team regressed to a 10-6 record, but by yardage splits looked like a much more efficient team than in 2010. Furthermore, they made the playoffs in back-to-back seasons for the first time ever, punctuated by quality seasons from each of those skill players I just named. With Ryan's efforts this year, the Falcons also had their first 4,000-yard passer since Jeff George in 1995. The third playoff game of the Matt Ryan era, though, against the Giants, was the team's worst yet. They took the lead early on a safety, and those 2 points are the only the Atlanta Falcons will score for the entire game while allowing 24. The only 4 plays they were in the red zone for came on the final drive of the game, and that didn't end in points either. By going without committing a turnover as well, this is the only playoff game in NFL history where a team didn't turn the ball over while scoring less than a field goal's worth of points. They didn't even attempt a field goal. After the game, a Bleacher Report writer compared Matt Ryan's 0-3 playoff record blemish on his otherwise outstanding resume to a woman with an attractive body but the face of your uncle. That seems way too specific for that writer to just make up, but the point stands. Ryan has returned the Atlanta Falcons to relevancy in their best stretch they have ever had in the regular season. In the postseason, they have yet to be anything more than a turnstile to teams with actual championship aspirations. So what next, you might ask? Pretty simple. You just have to keep winning. And keep winning. Do the 2012 Atlanta Falcons. These birds clinched the NFC top seed with a 13-3 record for the second time in 3 years. This one with an 8-0 start out of the gates. Their offense here was more efficient on a play-by-play basis, but the defense was hideous. 24th in yards allowed, 27th in yards per drive allowed. Despite this, the skill players stood tall. Tony Gonzalez was a first-team All-Pro. Michael Turner ran for 10 touchdowns for the 5th consecutive time in his last of as many seasons as a Falcon, retiring following 2012. At receiver, we got the last great season from Roddy White, coupled with Julio Jones' first Pro Bowl selection with 10 touchdown catches. I'm sure he's going to reach that mark again in his career. Atlanta had a pretty easy schedule again, but managed to be one of the few teams to steal the Peyton Manning Broncos lunch money when they beat them in Week 2. The other Manning brother had to witness the Falcons' 34-0 shutout of the Giants in Week 15 too. Matt Ryan also became the 9th post-merger quarterback to throw 5 interceptions in a game his team won, doing so against an underrated defense on a bad Cardinals team in Week 11. Outside that game, Ryan was spectacular, leading the league in completion percentage while ranking in the top 5 in many metrics. It looked like he was truly arriving as one of the NFL's elite quarterbacks. Of course, to get the public to buy in, fair or not, he had to get the playoff win out of the way. The opponent this time? A young Seahawks team on the rise with an offense featuring many household or once household names, complementing the Legion of Boom in their first of 4 consecutive seasons as the league's #1 scoring defense. More Matty, more problems for the Seahawks defense. The Falcons cruised to a 20-0 halftime lead, soon 27-7 in the fourth quarter. Finally, a playoff win in the Matt Ryan era was in walking distance. But on this episode of our Tricks Rabbit docuseries, the Seahawks score 21 unanswered points with 31 seconds left, taking the lead 28-27. The Falcons have again succumbed to the same playoff demons they were looking to bind at first. But getting the ball back, Matt Ryan looks into the face of death and slaps it. A completion to Harry Douglas for 22 yards, followed by a 19-yarder to Tony Gonzalez. After the Seahawks ice a missed Matt Bryan kick with a timeout, Bryan's second try from 49 gives the Falcons the lead with 8 seconds left. Matt Ryan has done it again and in the playoffs. It's not over yet. The Falcons elect the squib kick for reasons the Cosmos could only understand. The butchered play hilariously has gone down in the play-by-play as a 19-yard onside kick, which no team winning the ballgame would ever do ever. At midfield, the Seahawks have one last chance to fire a game-winning Hail Mary. On the attempt, one of my favorite bits of NFL trivia is summoned. Seahawks quarterback Russell Wilson's pass is picked off by Falcons wide receiver Julio Jones. One of only 2 times in the post-merger era, 3 if we include corner Deion Sanders, where a designated skill player intercepted a pass in the postseason, and the only in the 21st century. For good this time. Finally, a playoff win for Matt Ryan, plus Tony Gonzalez, one of the key contributors on the Falcons' game-winning drive. Gonzalez wasn't sure this wouldn't be his final game in the NFL and pretty much felt dead inside when the Seahawks erased that 27-7 hole. But when the Fates reversed fortunes just after to make him feel something again, he was overcome with emotion. For the first time in franchise history, the Atlanta Falcons host the NFC Championship, dueling it off with another NFC West team in the 49ers. Again, Atlanta has a massive early lead, 17-0 this time, and again, they fail to preserve it when the Niners take the lead, 28-24 in the fourth. Matt Ryan, in part due to a controversial catch ruling in favor of Atlanta, leads the Falcons to the San Francisco 10. On 4th and 4, he throws to Roddy White, whose route is short of the sticks for reasons beyond our capability of understanding. The pass is incomplete, but fans sure did think Navarro Bowman was making substantial contact with White on this play. A flag never came, and the Falcons suffered the biggest collapse in any NFC Championship game to date. But think back to before 2008. They had the third worst win percentage of any team from their first year in 1966 up to 2007, with 8 playoff appearances to show. In just 5 seasons under the Matt Ryan era, they've had 4 postseason trips, with their quarterback carrying them into the pantheon of the NFC's premier teams. For Falcons fans, this was unprecedented territory, with the chance to do something far greater. So what do they do now, with Super Bowl aspirations looking more and more likely? For Atlanta, 2013 was nowhere closer to realizing that dream, and actually the Falcons weren't even all that in reach of making the playoffs with a record of 4-12, one of the NFL's biggest season-to-season collapses. The skill players just got older and more bruised up. Tony Gonzalez was still great, but he retired just after as he wasn't contacting Rajal Ghul anytime soon. Age was getting to Roddy White, who missed a few games. Julio Jones only played in 5, a shame because he was magnificent when he played. With the departures of Michael Turner in the run game and John Abraham on defense, both units along with a dreadful offensive line form a house of cards that falls down to earth. The team misses the late-game heroics of the past with 7 one-score losses. One of these losses was a heartbreaking close defeat in a big game against the New England Patriots. Shout out to Harry Douglas, though, for a career year and getting over 1,000 yards receiving. Now let's move on to 2014. After an emotional overtime win over the Saints in Week 1 thanks to a monster day from Ryan, the Falcons split their next 2 games before losing 5 straight. They lost the first 4 of those games by a combined 59 points, all decided by multiple scores. But because the NFC South is historically terrible, this means the Falcons rallied to 6-9 entering the final week with a chance to clinch the division. That is, if they can just beat the 6-8-1 Panthers. They do not. And looking at the final score of 34-3 in favor of the division-clinching Panthers, their practice squad would have put up a better effort. Ryan threw 2 costly pick sixes that pretty much decided the game. And after, the Falcons fired Mike Smith. Not perfect, but up to this point, the best coach they ever had. However, I'd be remiss if I didn't bring up some good things that happened in these 2 dark years. Julio Jones came back strong with a true breakout season, eclipsing 1,500 yards while becoming the first Falcon receiver to reach 250 in a game. In the draft, key pieces were acquired such as corners Desmond Trufant and Robert Alford, safety Ricardo Allen, back Devontae Freeman, can't forget standout tackle Jake Matthews, who is still on the team today. The talent is being built for a fresh new head coach. The one with this prized opportunity is Seahawks defensive coordinator Dan Quinn, fresh off what will surely end up as the most heartbreaking Super Bowl loss in NFL history. But Quinn also has a ring from the 2013 Seahawks, hoping to architect the same winning defense with a unit ranked near the bottom for most of Ryan's tenure. The Falcons also land legendary coach Kyle Shanahan as the team's offensive coordinator. He presents Ryan with a new scheme he'll have tough sledding adjusting to, as he does have weaker numbers than in seasons past. Nonetheless, the 2015 Falcons start off 5-0. One of the main cogs is second-year back Devontae Freeman and his 9 touchdowns through 6 games. It's easy to forget this after Atlanta becomes the 5th team since the start of the wildcard era in 1990 that missed the playoffs after a 5-0 start. The 8-8 record they finish with is still trending upward. After getting blown out 38-0 by the undefeated Carolina Panthers in Week 14, 2 weeks later, the Falcons become the only regular season team to beat Carolina. Julio Jones also continued to tread upward, setting then the second highest receiving yardage total in a season. Remember those draft classes from 2013 and 2014 I talked about earlier? In 2015, they got outside linebacker Vic Beasley, back Tevin Coleman. In a remarkable coincidence, they additionally spent a 5th-round pick on the son of legendary team linebacker Jesse Tuggle, defensive tackle Grady Jarrett, himself a beloved Falcon for a decade. All three of these players will play big roles in the team's return to a state of contention in 2016. What happens in 2016 has been covered to death and was the biggest reason why I hesitated to make a video like this for a while. What more could I say about the season in a traditional structure? Well, I decided nothing. So we're going to make this more non-linear and more fun for me. If you're a Falcons fan, you may be excused from watching this section. Go to the 2017 timestamp in this video if you wish to skip this part. For the first time since 1998, the Falcons are in the Super Bowl, facing the four-time champion Tom Brady, Bill Belichick, New England Patriots. They are annihilating football's most powerful dynasty, a complete team effort with Matt Ryan and Devontae Freeman dissecting the league's top-scoring defense while sacking the sport's most decorated quarterback a career-high 5 times, 3 of those from Grady Jarrett. With players like Jarrett and Robert Alford stifling Brady on defense, it allows the team to build a third-quarter lead of 28-3. How did they do it? How are the Falcons on the brink of winning their first Super Bowl? To examine that, let's go back to the regular season. The Falcons had a bumpy first 12 games before winning their last 4 to finish 11-5, clinching the NFC second seed with a first-round bye. Again, their defense was one of the league's less successful until the final 4 weeks of the season, where they allowed the 7th fewest points in that stretch. They nailed another draft class with marquee pieces such as safety Keanu Neal, linebackers Deion Jones and Devondre Campbell, topped off with the selection of tight end Austin Hooper. Hooper joined what will be one of the greatest offenses in NFL history. As of this recording, only 9 teams in the 100-plus year existence of the NFL have scored more points than Atlanta's 540. To add on, they're one of 18 teams post-merger to score 40 points in at least 5 games. For those curious about all time, they're one of 29 teams to do this. It's time for the skill player roll call. Julio Jones, of course, was amazing. The highlight of his season was a team record 300-yard performance in a Week 4 win over the Panthers that saw him become just one of 6 receivers to join the 300-yard club. Julio was aided by the free agent signings of wide receiver 2 Mohamed Sanu and the versatile speed threat of Taylor Gabriel. The Dirty Birds boasted the best backfield combo too, Devontae Freeman and Tevin Coleman. Look no further than the Week 5 win against the Broncos team with a dominant defense in mile-high altitude. Freeman and Coleman carved Denver up and exposed their biggest weakness, the linebackers, for a combined 220 yards and 2 touchdowns. Their all-time offense is aided with the addition of center Alex Mack, one of the position's best in recent memory. But the offense's best piece, the one that completed an all-time great offense, was Matt Ryan himself. Ryan had one of the league's greatest ever passing seasons, riding that to win Offensive Player of the Year, as well as becoming the first Falcon to win Most Valuable Player. His MVP season saw him throw just south of 5,000 yards for 38 touchdowns to just 7 interceptions. His passer rating of 117.1 is currently 8th on the all-time list and was 5th back in the day. His 9.3 yards per attempt, number 6 post-merger. In terms of adjusted net yards per attempt, staying in that 1970 to present range, his total of 9.03 ranks 5th. Naturally, a few games of his stand out. That Week 4 Panthers game I mentioned, Ryan had a career-high 503 passing yards, one of only 25 regular season instances a quarterback has tossed for at least 500. 4 weeks later, Ryan kept the team above 500 with an incredible last-minute game-winning drive against the Packers. In the last 4 games, he threw 11 touchdowns to no picks. His passer rating exceeded 133. Stylistically, it was plain compared to previous MVP winners like Aaron Rodgers and Cam Newton. Helping matters was having the league's best play caller in Kyle Shanahan, making things easier for his quarterback. But Ryan also had to adjust after a rocky 2015, and after doing so, he put together his masterpiece in 2016. Ryan saved his best performances for the playoffs, dicing up the Seahawks in the divisional round for 3 touchdowns while scoring a combined 5 in the NFC Championship against the Packers. For the first time in forever, Atlanta had stress-free playoff games where fans could sit back and enjoy the show, with their quarterback finally shedding the playoff choker label that had contained him for so long. And that is what leads us back to the Super Bowl, where the Falcons take that 28-3 lead and use it to produce what is the most haunting loss from any game in the NFL, maybe any North American sport, ever. Again, for affected Falcons fans watching, please skip to the 2017 timestamp if you don't want to see this. The Patriots score 9 unanswered points to make it 28-12 Falcons, 9.5 left. On the ensuing Atlanta 3rd and 1, Devonta Freeman, again having had a fantastic game up to that point, was brought in for the usual pass blocker Tevin Coleman. Coleman dealing with an ankle injury that saw him miss the fourth quarter. Freeman whiffs on his block against Dante Hightower, one of the more underrated New England Patriots. Hightower strip sacks Ryan for a Pats recovery, and the defense allows an 8-point drive to make it 28-20 with less than 6 minutes to go. Huge plays from Freeman and Julio Jones get the Falcons into field goal range, and it looks like a game-sealing kick is in the works. After a run for a 1-yard loss, Kyle Shanahan elects to throw the ball. On this second down, Ryan is sacked by Trey Flowers for a loss of 12. Third down, a 9-yard completion is wiped off by a holding penalty on Jake Matthews. One incompletion on 3rd and 33 later, and the Falcons have the punt from the Patriots 45. Alliteration notwithstanding, Matthew Bosher's excellent punt pins the Pats on their 9-yard line, but they drive to their 36. Tom Brady's next pass is nearly intercepted by Robert Alford. The ball is batted in the air before it is miraculously caught by Patriots receiver Julian Edelman, grabbing it after using about 25 save states to do it. 4 plays later, Pats touchdown, 2-point conversion, tie ball game, overtime. The Pats win the coin toss, drive to the Falcons 2, and a play after Vic Beasley almost comes down with a game-saving interception, back James White just gets in the end zone to complete the most consequential single-game collapse in NFL history. This occurred in the stretch that included a couple other historic collapses from the Golden State Warriors and the Cleveland Indians, but at least those teams and cities had titles to fall back on, and at least those two didn't blow large single-game leads. If the Falcons were gamers with the goal of achieving everything that could go wrong, they would have had a 100% completion rate. Never say never, but given the lofty stakes, I think it's likely there will never be a sports loss as haunting or as heartbreaking as the one the 2016 Atlanta Falcons had at the very end. I do think this season is worth remembering for all the good the Falcons put in the universe, though I can also understand why many fans would have rather missed the Super Bowl than make it just to lose the way they did. When the Falcons weren't acting like they were attacked by a poisonous Pokemon, they were unstoppable. For Ryan, his 2016 postseason passer rating of 135.3 is 8th all-time, 6th among quarterbacks who played multiple games in said postseason, 3rd all-time among quarterbacks that reached the Super Bowl. He lost that fumble in the Super Bowl, but otherwise never threw a single pick in the postseason. His passer rating of 144.1 against the Pats is by far the highest from the losing quarterback in Super Bowl history. It was a performance no one could ever forget. But because of one game, it's one no one can remember. In 2017, Kyle Shanahan departed to become the 49ers head coach. Repeatedly haunted by the Super Bowl demons, the Falcons have at least been spared from continued exposure to. His replacement at OC is Alabama's Steve Sarkisian, who tries his best but can't get the same amount of talent to reach the sprawling heights of 2016. And Ryan's numbers regressed, though I think eye test-wise, I remember him looking good. One unit that looked better, though, was the defense, top 10 in scoring and yards allowed. One game in particular, Week 10 against the Cowboys, saw Adrian Claiborne, who will have 9.5 sacks on the entire season, generate 6 in this game, one shy of the single-game record. Julio Jones, never the most prolific scorer, got in the end zone just 3 times in 2017. No other receiver with at least 1,400 yards in a season has ever done that. People have tried to explain why he didn't score. Matt Ryan throws the worst possible fade pass anyone has ever seen. The play calling in the red zone sucked. Julio just isn't a good red zone threat. These have all been thrown in, but no one can really agree on which one is correct. But 1,400 yards is still a ton, and the only receiver with more of those seasons all time, naturally, is Jerry Rice. The 2017 Falcons were also only worse by 1 game, finishing 10-6 to clinch a playoff spot again. In the same calendar year where they met face-to-face with the most back-breaking playoff loss, the Fates threw the Falcons a bone, or in this case, some birdseeds. A Week 3 game at Detroit saw the Lions from the Falcons 1 score what looked like a game-winning touchdown. But after further review, Golden Tate's knee was down just before reaching the end zone. As the game clock was running, by rule a 10-second runoff was required, and since the play ended with under 10 seconds remaining, that meant the game was over. Week 11 sees another thrilling finish at Seattle. Grady Jarrett stops a fake field goal at the end of the first half. That play deserves so much more praise than it's gotten, by the way. Seconds left in regulation, Seahawks kicker Blair Walsh barely misses a game-tying field goal, and those are the plays that allow the Falcons, and not the Seahawks or Lions, to clinch a playoff spot as the NFC's 6th seed. Before we move on to the playoffs, quick mention of Ryan's most famous soundbite, Week 15 at the Bucs. Noticing one of his wideouts wasn't lined up properly, he politely asked his teammate to do the following. At the time, everyone thought he was yelling to Mohamed Sanu, clearly should have looked at what a Hall of Fame caliber player like Julio was doing and lined up like him. Actually, Ryan revealed years later he directed that at Julio, supposedly for taking his time getting lined up. On an even funnier note, Ryan revealed the Falcons soon wore t-shirts with "Get Set" plastered on them. Anyway, in the wildcard round as 6.5 road underdogs to the Rams, the Falcons play an unspectacular but winning effort for their first road victory in the postseason in 15 years. They're on to the divisional round to play at Philadelphia. Ryan was born an hour away in Exton and went to high school at Penn Charter, located in Philly, so this is his homecoming. The Falcons have this game in control throughout the first half until what looks like an interception thrown by Eagles backup quarterback Nick Foles near halftime. The ball bounces off Keanu Neal's knee when he jumps for some reason, must have been a Madden glitch, and it somehow lands in Torrey Smith's hands for a gain of 20. That sets up a field goal, which is followed by 2 more to put the Eagles up 15-10 late in the fourth. Matt Ryan gets the Falcons down to the Philly 2, but on 4th and goal, cannot connect with Julio Jones in the end zone, and the Falcons lose on another punch to the gut in the postseason. In the 2018 offseason, the Falcons are touted as dark horse Super Bowl contenders thanks to an improving defense matched by acquiring receiver Calvin Ridley in the first round of the 2018 NFL Draft. There are playmakers all over the field, so it pains me to say that 2017 was the last time the Falcons have made the playoffs as of this recording. The 2018 Falcons won 4 games in their first 13 tries, rallied to finish 7-9 to make it look better, but without a playoff appearance, it's a disappointing year. Injuries to key players were something they couldn't recover from. Keanu Neal played in 1 game, Ricardo Allen played in 3, Deion Jones 6, Devontae Freeman 2. What really hurts is Matt Ryan had a season almost as good as his MVP 2016. Off 4,924 passing yards, he became one of 4 quarterbacks to throw 35 touchdowns and less than 10 picks with a workload of at least 600 pass attempts. And yet, against the Saints and Bengals in weeks 3 and 4, Ryan combined to throw 8 touchdowns to no picks, only to see the defense blow it on last-second defeats. Play caller Steve Sarkisian was made the fall guy when he was fired at season's end. His offense wasn't the team's biggest issue, but they did average 17.6 points per game during a 5-game losing streak that dropped them to 4-9 in the first place. I've already spoiled the rest of the Matt Ryan Falcons era. I'm sorry about that. In 2019, the Falcons started 1-7 before another too little, too late rally to finish 7-9. Weeks after missing a game-tying extra point in crunch time in Week 6 against the Cardinals, kicker Matt Bryant, the highest-scoring Falcon ever, is cut. There were a few moments that did go Atlanta's way. They shocked the 7-1 Saints in Week 10 and almost willed an improbable comeback against them on Thanksgiving off of 3 successful onside kicks from Younghoe Koo, 2 of which counted. Deion Jones in Week 17 was the player that caught Jameis Winston's 30th interception of the season, a game-winning pick 6. That ensured Winston would make history as the first quarterback to throw 30 touchdowns and 30 picks in a season. In 2020, the Falcons further descended from mastering the art of the comeback to dealing in the dark arts of the choke. They threw away a late 2-score lead against the Cowboys in part due to a botched onside kick where no one thought to recover the ball, followed a week later by botching a late 16-point lead to the Bears. The 0-5 start saw Dan Quinn lose his job. His replacement, Raheem Morris, who in 2025 is actually in his second stint as Falcons coach, only led them to 4 wins on the year. Ryan in 2019 and 2020 was still putting up solid numbers, but in 2021, it was clear he was not the same quarterback he once was. It was the first time since 2010 he failed to reach 4,000 yards passing. Can't imagine that's easy to face with Julio Jones' departure in the offseason. But he was putting the finishing touches on what was really an outstanding career, finishing his Falcons tenure 8th all-time in passing yards and 9th in touchdown passes. In the offseason, Ryan was traded to the Colts, and he had easily the worst season of his entire career. His last game in the NFL saw the Colts blow a 33-0 halftime lead and lose in overtime. In other words, Ryan has been involved in the biggest NFC Championship collapse, the biggest Super Bowl collapse, and the biggest single regular season game collapse. I hope someone out there at that time in his life gave him a hug. He really needed it. Those games weren't entirely his fault, but the Super Bowl loss is the one endgame result that shot down a probable spot in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Now he has an invitation to the Hall of Very Good. That's still a fantastic honor. Not many players get anywhere near the Hall of Very Good. It shows the NFL, for reasons fair or unfair, is about stories and wins. If one of those plays in the 28-3 game turned out differently, the whiff Devontae Freeman block, the Julian Edelman catch, Kyle Shanahan being a little too pass-heavy when Atlanta needed to run some clock, it's possible the 2016 Falcons are gloriously etched in NFL lore with a ring. If it were up to me, the outcome of one game, no matter how big, shouldn't be the thing holding a player back from the Hall of Fame. I have to concede, unfortunately, that it isn't up to me. And so, Ryan's Hall of Fame case isn't a great one with these standards. Ryan's career in the grand scheme of things was magnificent. He was able to overcome accusations of weak or average arm strength by playing excellent football in the pocket as one of the most accurate passers the sport has ever seen. There are Falcons fans who hold Ryan in the shadows of Michael Vick due to a complete contrast in athleticism. One was one of the most athletic players in sports ever, the other was Michael Vick. On a serious note, Ryan lacked the physical heights Vick showed, but he was a far better passer and quarterback overall. That part isn't close. Before Ryan, the Falcons' history of winning wasn't particularly good, and that changed during his tenure with years of clutch play. Matt Ryan's 38 fourth-quarter comebacks ranked 4th all-time when he retired, and still ranked 5th today. In terms of game-winning drives, he led 46 of them. That is 6th all-time. So by the numbers, Ryan is one of the most clutch quarterbacks in NFL history. You can believe what you want to about his playoff shortcomings, but in his last 3 postseasons, he was fantastic. Compare his passer rating from his first 3 playoff games, 71.2, to his last 7, 114.3, and it's like looking at 2 different quarterbacks. For an alleged playoff choker, 4 playoff wins, and on the brink of winning a Super Bowl, that's not bad at all. Except for how that one Super Bowl went, but that's not my point. The point is that Matt Ryan is obviously the best quarterback the Falcons have had and may ever have. He's the only Falcons quarterback to start in at least 100 wins. No other quarterback in the franchise's encyclopedia has more than 55. He's found himself in the Atlanta Falcons Ring of Honor as one of the team's greatest players, and that's the highest level of professional football. Ring or not, Hall of Fame or not, getting your name etched in that area is remarkable. Finally, I'll leave you with this. I dislike using Wikipedia as a reference as I feel like the shortcut in research makes it less fulfilling. However, I'll make an exception here. As a kid that played all kinds of sports, I always dreamed of one day being good enough to hoist some kind of individual award. Since I'm a YouTuber now, you can see how well that went. But look at all these awards Ryan won. Many physical, some in a magazine, some online. That's an insanely good resume, something Ryan should be proud of. Pro Football Reference's Hall of Fame monitor has an average score of 108. The guy that isn't at or above it but is the very closest of the guys that are just short at 106.05 is Matt Ryan. If Matt Ryan's legacy really is that he came up short of being an all-time great, then compared to the rest of us, he is one. Thanks for spending some time with me, and I'll see you next time.
Mm.